Welcome, brothers and sisters. Today we are going to do the second part of paper 101, which is all about the true nature of religion. The chapters that we will do and go through um, are the limitations of revelation and religion expanded by revelation, and a personal philosophy of religion. All right, let us go into this. And here we are with the screen share. And then let us start. The limitations of revelation. Because your world is generally ignorant of origins, even of physical origins, it has appeared to be wise from time to time to provide instruction in cosmology, and always has this made trouble for the future. The laws of revelation hamper us greatly by their proscription of the impartation of unearned or premature knowledge. Any cosmology presented as a part of revealed religion is destined to be outgrown in a very short time. Accordingly, future students of such a revelation are tempted to discard any element of genuine religious truth it may contain because they discover errors on the face of the associated cosmologies therein presented. Mankind should understand that we who participate in the revelation of truth are very rigorously limited by the instructions of our superiors. We are not at liberty to anticipate the scientific discoveries of 1,000 years. Revelators must act in accordance with the instructions which form a part of the revelation mandate. We, the beings of the Melchizedek world, or some Melchizedeks who have presented this information to us, we see no way of overcoming this difficulty, either now or at any future time. We full well know that while the historic facts and religious truths of this series of revelatory presentations will stand on the records of the ages to come, within a few short years, many of our statements regarding the physical sciences will stand in need of revision in consequence of additional scientific developments and new discoveries. These new developments we even now foresee, but we are forbidden to include such humanly undiscovered facts in the revelatory records. Let it be made clear that revelations are not necessarily inspired. The cosmology of these revelations is not inspired. It is limited by our permission for the coordination and sorting of present-day knowledge, while divine or spiritual insight is a gift. Human wisdom must evolve. Truth is always a revelation, auto-revelation, when it emerges as a result of the work of the indwelling adjuster. Epochal revelation, when it is presented by the function of some other celestial agency, group, or personality. In the last analysis, religion is to be judged by its fruits, according to the manner and the extent to which it exhibits its own inherent and divine excellence. Truth may be but relatively inspired, even though revelation is invariably a spiritual phenomenon, while statements with reference to cosmology are never inspired. Such revelations are of immense value in that they at least transiently clarify knowledge by 1. The reduction of confusion by the authoritative elimination of error. 2. The coordination of known or about to be known facts and observations. 3. The restoration of important bits of lost knowledge concerning epochal transactions in the distant past. 4. The supplying of information which will fill in vital missing gaps in otherwise earned knowledge. And 5. Presenting cosmic data in such a manner as to illuminate the spiritual teachings contained in the accompanying revelation. Point 5. Religion expanded by revelation. Revelation is a technique whereby ages upon ages of time are saved in the necessary work of sorting and sifting the errors of evolution from the truths of spirit acquirement. Science deals with facts. Religion is concerned only with value. Through enlightened philosophy, the mind endeavors to unite the meanings of both facts and values, thereby arriving at a concept of complete reality. Remember that science is the domain of knowledge, philosophy the realm of wisdom, and religion the sphere of the faith experience. But religion, nonetheless, presents two phases of manifestation. 1. Evolutionary religion, the experience of primitive worship, the religion which is a mind derivative. 2. Revealed religion, the universe attitude which is a spirit derivative, the assurance of and belief in the conservation of eternal realities, the survival of personality, and the eventual attainment of the cosmic deity, whose purpose has made all this possible. It is a part of the plan of the universe that, sooner or later, evolutionary religion is destined to receive the spiritual expansion of revelation. Both science and religion start out with the assumption of certain generally accepted bases for logical deductions. So also must philosophy start its career upon the assumption of the reality of three things. 1. The material body. 2. The supermaterial phase of the human being, the soul, or even the indwelling spirit. And 3. The human mind, the mechanism for intercommunication and interassociation between spirit and matter, between the material and the spiritual. Scientists assemble facts, philosophers coordinate ideas, while prophets exalt ideals. Feeling and emotion are invariably concomitants of religion, but they are not religion. Religion may be the feeling of experience, but it is hardly the experience of feeling. Neither logic, rationalization, nor emotion, feeling, is essentially a part of religious experience, although both may variously be associated with the exercise of faith in the furtherance of spiritual insight into reality, all according to the status and temperamental tendency of the individual mind. Evolutionary religion is the outworking of the endowment of the local universe mind attuned charged with the creation and fostering of the worship trait in evolving man. Such primitive religions are directly concerned with ethics and morals, the sense of human duty. Such religions are uh, predicated on the assurance of conscience and result in the stabilization of relatively ethical civilizations. Personally revealed religions are sponsored by the bestowal spirits representing the three persons of the Paradise Trinity and are especially concerned with the expansion of truth. Evolutionary religion drives home to the individual the idea of personal duty. Revealed religion lays increasing emphasis on loving the golden rule. Evolved religion rests wholly on faith. Revelation has the additional assurance of its expanded presentation of the truths of divinity and reality, and the still more valuable testimony of the actual experience, which accumulates in the consequences of the practical working union of the faith of evolution and the truth of revelation. Such a working union of human faith and divine truth constitutes the possession of a character well on the road to the actual acquirement of a morontial personality. Evolutionary religion provides only the assurance of faith and the confirmation of conscience. Revelatory religion provides the assurance of faith plus the truth of a living experience in the realities of revelation. The third step in religion, or the third phase of the experience of religion, has to do with the Morantia state, which is another word of soul state, spirit state. The firmer grasp of mota. Increasingly in the Morantia progression, the truths of revealed religion are expanded. More and more, you will know the truth of supreme values, divine goodness, universal relationships, eternal realities, and ultimate destinies. Increasingly, throughout the Morantia progression, the assurance of truth replaces the assurance of faith. When you are finally mustered into the actual spirit world, then will the assurance of pure spirit insight operate in the place of faith and truth, or rather in conjunction with and superimposed upon these former techniques of personality assurance. Progressive religious experience. The Morontia phase of revealed religion has to do with the experience of survival, and its great urge is the attainment of spirit perfection. There also is present the higher urge of worship, associated with an impelling call to increased ethical service. Morantia insight entails an ever expanding consciousness of the sevenfold, the supreme, and even the ultimate. Throughout all religious experience, from its earliest inception on the material level up to the time of the attainment of full spirit status. The adjuster is the secret of the personal realization of the reality of the existence of the Supreme. And this same adjuster also holds the secrets of your faith in the transcendental attainment of the ultimate, the experiential personality of evolving man. United to the adjuster essence of the existential God constitutes the potential completion of supreme existence and is inherently the basis for the superfinite eventuation of transcendental personality. Moral will embraces decisions based on reasoned knowledge, augmented by wisdom, and sanctioned by religious faith. Such choices are acts of moral nature and evidence the existence of moral personality, the forerunner of Morantia personality and eventually of true spirit status. The evolutionary type of knowledge is but the accumulation of protoplasmic memory, material. This is the most primitive form of creature consciousness. Wisdom embraces the ideas formulated from protoplasmic memory in process of association and recombination. And such phenomena differentiate human mind from mere animal mind. Animals have knowledge, but only man possesses wisdom capacity, which means only man is able to bring knowledge into wisdom. An animal is not capable of doing so. Truth is made accessible to the wisdom endowed individual by the bestowal on such a mind of the spirits of the Father and the Sons, the thought adjuster, and the Spirit of Truth. Christ Michael, when bestowed on Urantia, lived under the reign of evolutionary religion up to the time of his baptism. That moment up to and including the event of his crucifixion, he carried forward his work by the combined guidance of evolutionary and revealed religion. From the morning of his resurrection until his ascension, he traversed the manifold phases of the Morantia life of mortal transition from the world of matter to that of spirit. After his ascension, Michael became master of the experience of supremacy, the realization of the supreme, and being the one person in Abaddon possessed of unlimited capacity to experience the reality of the supreme. He, Christ Michael, or better known for us as Jesus of Nazareth, forthwith attained to the status of the sovereignty of supremacy in and to his local universe. Jesus has made the universe that we are part of, and its name is Nebadon. With man, the eventual fusion and resultant oneness with the indwelling adjuster, the personality synthesis of man and the essence of God constitute him, in potential, a living part of the Supreme and ensure for such a one-time mortal being the eternal birthright of the endless pursuit of finality of universe service for and with the Supreme. Revelation teaches mortal man that to start such a magnificent and intriguing adventure through space by means of the progression of time, he should begin by the organization of knowledge into idea decisions. Next, mandate wisdom to labor unremittingly at its noble task of transforming self-possessed ideas into increasingly practical but nonetheless supernal ideals, even those concepts which are so reasonable as ideas and so logical as ideals that the adjuster dares so to combine and spiritize them as to render them available for such association in the finite mind as will constitute them the actual human complement, thus made ready for the action of the truth spirit of the sons. The time space manifestations of paradise truth, universal truth, the coordination of idea, decisions, logical ideals, and divine truth constitutes the possession of a righteous character, the, prere- the prerequisite for mortal admission to the ever expanding and increasingly spiritual realities of the Morantia worlds. The teachings of Jesus constituted the first Urantian religion which so fully embraced a harmonious coordination of knowledge, wisdom, faith, truth, and love as completely and simultaneously to provide temporal tranquility, intellectual certainty, moral enlightenment, philosophic stability, ethical sensitivity, God consciousness, and the positive assurance of personal survival. The faith of Jesus pointed the way to finality of human salvation, better known, points the way to finality of human rehabilitation, because that is what salvation is. It stands for rehabilitation to the ultimate of mortal universe attainment, since it provided for 1. Salvation from material fetters in the personal realization of sonship with God, who is Spirit. Salvation and thus rehabilitation from intellectual bondage. Man shall know the truth, and the truth shall set him free. And then 3, salvation and thus rehabilitation from spiritual blindness, the human realization of the fraternity of mortal beings and the Morantian awareness of the brotherhood of all universe creatures, the surface discovery of spiritual reality, and the ministry revelation of the goodness of spirit values. 4. Salvation or rehabilitation from incompleteness of self through the attainment of the spirit levels of the universe and through the eventual realization of the harmony of Havona, which is central universe, and the perfection of paradise. Paradise is in the central universe. 5. Salvation or rehabilitation from self, deliverance from the limitations of self-consciousness through the attainment of the cosmic levels of the Supreme Mind, and by coordination with the attainments of all other self-conscious beings. 6. Salvation or rehabilitation from time, the achievement of an eternal life of unending progression in God recognition and God service. 7. Salvation or rehabilitation from the finite, the perfected oneness with deity in and through the Supreme, by which the creature attempts the transcendental discovery of the ultimate on the post-finaliter levels of the Absolute. Such a sevenfold salvation or rehabilitation is the equivalent of the completeness and perfection of the realization of the ultimate experience of the Universal Father. And all this in potential is contained within the reality of the faith of the human experience of religion. And it can be so contained since the faith of Jesus was nourished by and was revelatory of even realities beyond the ultimate. The faith of Jesus approached the status of a universe absolute in so far as such is possible of manifestation in the evolving cosmos of time and space. Through the appropriation of the faith of Jesus, mortal man can foretaste in time the realities of eternity. Jesus made the discovery in human experience of the final Father and his brothers in the flesh of mortal life can um, follow him along this same experience of Father discovery. They can even attain, as they are, the same satisfaction in this experience with the Father as did Jesus as he was. New potentials were actualized in the universe of Nebadon, consequent upon the terminal bestowal of Michael, and one of these was the new illumination of the path of eternity that leads to the Father of all, and which can be traversed even by the mortals of material flesh and blood in the initial life. On the planets of space, Jesus was and is the new and living way whereby man can come into the divine inheritance which the Father has decreed shall be his for but the asking. In Jesus, there is abundantly demonstrated both the beginnings and endings of the faith experience of humanity, even of divine humanity. And then the last section for today, point 7, a personal philosophy of religion. An idea is only a theoretical plan for action, while a positive decision is a validated plan of action. A stereotype is a plan of action accepted without validation. The materials out of which to build a personal philosophy of religion are derived from both the inner and the environmental experience of the individual. The social status, economic conditions, educational opportunities, moral trends, institutional influences, political developments, racial tendencies, and the religious teachings of one's time and place all become factors in the formulation of a personal philosophy of religion. Even the inherent temperament and intellectual bent markedly determine the pattern of religious philosophy. Vocation, marriage, and kindred all influence the evolution of one's personal standards of life. A philosophy of religion evolves out of a basic growth of ideas plus experimental living, as both are modified by the tendency to imitate associates. The soundness of philosophic conclusions depends on keen, honest, and discriminating thinking in connection with sensitivity to meanings and accuracy of evaluation. Moral cowards never achieve high planes of philosophic thinking. It requires courage to invade new levels of experience and to attempt the exploration of unknown realms of intellectual living. Presently, new systems of values come into existence. New formulations of principles and standards are achieved. Habits and ideals are reshaped. Some idea of a personal God is attained, followed by enlarging concepts of relationship thereto. The great difference between a religious and a non-religious philosophy of living consists in the nature and level of recognized values and in the object of loyalties. There are four phases in the evolution of religious philosophy. Phase 1 is such an experience may become merely conformative, resigned to submission to tradition and authority. 2. Or it may be satisfied with slight attainments, just enough to stabilize the daily living, and therefore becomes early arrested on such an adventitious level. Such mortals believe in letting well enough alone. Then the third group, which is the third one, progresses to the level of logical intellectuality, but there stagnate in consequence of cultural slavery. It is indeed pitiful to behold giant intellects held so securely within the cruel grasp of cultural bondage. It is equally pathetic to observe those who trade their cultural bondage for the materialistic fetters of a science falsely so called. And then the fourth one, the fourth level of philosophy attains freedom from all conventional and traditional handicaps and dares to think, act, and live honestly, loyally, fearlessly, and trustfully. The acid test for any religious philosophy consists in whether or not it distinguishes between the realities of the material and the spiritual worlds, while at the same moment recognizing their unification in intellectual striving and in social serving. A sound religious philosophy does not confound the things of God with the things of Caesar. Neither does it recognize the aesthetic cult of pure wonder as a substitute for religion. Philosophy transforms that primitive religion, which was largely a fairy tale of conscience, into a living experience in the ascending values of cosmic reality. And I want to go back to the last sentence where it has been stated philosophy transforms that primitive religion. The majority of the human races are still stuck on primitive religion, uh, sacred books, sacred writings, and everything that is related to primitive religion. Because of this, they stay stuck in the fetters of this um, fairy tale that took place in the conscience. Um, so what is being said here is that we as human species need to see beyond primitive religion. We need to have the courage to um, expand our soul in going through unknown spiritual levels of existing. So this is something that we need to do, but as we can see, the majority of our fellow brothers and sisters are far more busy with political statements, views, and ideas, um, and with scientific ideas and statements of which we all need to question um, in what way they are truly based on life and in what way they are in actuality um, antagonistic. So, with this said, I have come to the end of this today's life book reading. Tomorrow we start with point 8, faith and belief, and we go to subchapter 10. And so tomorrow we will do the last chapters of this paper 101. That was all about the true nature of religion. All the information that you have heard these days is coming from a Melchizedek of Nebadon. And so you know who is in actuality the author of this information. All right, I go out of this